Oh, good morning, Liberians. I had a dream last night and I didn't know what this dream meant. In this dream, I saw the Capitol building. And it was kind of a dream that I saw the Capitol building in tears. A building to see, like you just in dreaming, you see the horse crying. And I saw the Capitol building in tears and just crying. And the tears were pouring down of the cheeks of the Capitol building. And as I went closer, I began emotion of myself in this dream because in my life I had never seen a building crying before, except for maybe children movie, maybe SpongeBob, SquarePants, maybe Sesame Street, probably some kids movies, maybe you see some of these extraordinary stuff. But now this is a dream that I saw that the Capitol building was crying. And then I began to behave like a child in this dream. A child that sees someone crying and think that this person crying and the child too want to cry. I've seen something like that before. But this one, it was a dream about this building. Why was it building sharing tears so profusely? All of his chest, it was just coming down and crying. And as I walked towards it, I began curious. And I said, but can the building talk to me? But even though I see this building crying, can this building talk to me? As a man that don't like to give up. That's part of my life. I never like to give up in life because people who know God and preach God, the gospel, you should know never to give up because you're following a master that never gave up on his promises to God to come and set the word free, set us free. Jesus never gave up. Even though they did everything to him to give up, but Jesus never gave up. And that's what I saw the Capitol building crying profusely. And as I got closer, a dream is a wonderful thing. I don't know why. As I got closer, I began to ask him, but why are you crying? I said, I never see a building crying before. That's why I'm so curious. And I was afraid. And I'm afraid, but something just keep pushing me. Say, go and ask this building why the building is keep crying. And I myself was being emotional too because I don't like to see people cry. Then the building asked me, the Capitol building asked me, dream is a wonderful thing. I said, why you ask me why I am crying? I said, because I never saw a building crying before in my life. That's why I'm asking, why are you crying? Then he said, the building said to me, but if you haven't seen a building crying before, and now that you see me crying and you ask me why I am crying, the reason why I am crying, because I am deeply troubled. Deeply troubled. I saw myself as a building, but within me, inside me, I once stood for justice. I once housed great men of valor. I once saw great men who stood the challenges against slavery and suppression of their lives, and they had to hard to worship God in order to be saved. And And then when they came and constructed me in order to keep fighting for vulnerable people, because we were vulnerable and we fought. We followed the calling. Our forefather left the song, let's swing glow, swing chariot. I'm coming for to carry me home, because it came at a time that they could no longer stand being suppressed and being abused in a way. And they sang to God, swing glow, swing chariot. I'm coming for to carry me home. Because when I turn around and look around me, I cannot see any hope. When I look around me, north, south, east, and right, west, I cannot see hope. And when a man cannot see hope and cannot see anyone to help, he cannot help but cry. When we learn about our forefathers' struggle, we begin to think about our future, what our future will be. Too many years, we heard that 200 years ago, the same thing was happening. He said, my friend, you asked me why I'm crying. Because we left. God saved us from the suppression that we could no longer bear. The only thing we hung to was the word of God and singing, swing glow, swing chariot. And you see me crying and this morning, because I thought about the song what my forefathers sang to free us. Every stretch on our back with steward was one stanza of a song, of the freedom song. And then one day God show up through a man, a compassionate man who knew his word, and said, it is time to let him go. I found myself burning this morning. How now can I dispense justice? They burned us in America. When we came, we experienced bow and arrow and spears coming at us. Even though we came back to our own land, but we saw bow and arrow coming at us. We had to fight back, even though in the minority. But the little power that we had to use it to sustain us in the nation. If a man putting a piece of fire coal in the candle to let it go, so that the nation that I stood, this place that I stand, it was where we were barricaded 100, 200 years ago, 177 years ago. This spot that you see me standing crying was the very spot that we barricaded ourselves and used to go on the farm and come. And then we saw the indigenous coming at us, even though we did not intend to come and suppress them. But they begin to reject us from the time they came. They accuse us that we are the one that sold our forefathers. But we knew that because of lack of knowledge, they didn't know what to say. And we just shook our head all the time. That spot. Yet, we started on Ducal Hill, overseeing the Atlantic Ocean. But we always remember the hilltop, because the hilltop for us is closer to God. And that's why we put that building on Capitol Hill. We call it Capitol Hill, the hill of freedom, the hill where we went back to how our forefathers died, and now we have returned, how we can raise a nation and take our people from utter poverty. But it came a time we had to fight to stay. Because when we talk about how they rejected us, we were talking about at that time, the Mayflower, the strong, all the ships are already gone. Who were going to take us back? They had already released us. We couldn't go back. We had to stay. But we hung on to God. Later on, because the same God that we worship in the South and prayed and sang, and we sat near the rebels of Babylon and we shed tears because we are now in our Zion and there's no turning back. At one point, they slaughtered us on an electrical post, thinking that it was a good choice they made for their own country. And at this point, my son, you asked me why I'm sharing tears. Because when you see people digging a dead body out of hatred and burning that dead body, it means that there is something very serious, something that they don't know what they're doing to themselves. And the dream, as I began to cry in my dream and saw the tears running down from the Capitol building, I could hear the echoes of crying. I heard the voice of children, old people crying in the dream as the Capitol building tears came running down the cheeks. We did not intend to plant evil in this country. That's why we brought the word of God with us to teach our people from primitive life to the life of Christ, to know Jesus, so that we all can live together as people of one nation. We did all of that to integrate our people. After they attack us and we fought and we begin to sit down, we begin to declare a nation that will be ours. A nation that will become a beacon of hope for Africa. And this building that is crying in my dream, this building is where laws were passed to help other African countries to gain their independence. In this building, I have to cry because my fear, the reason why I'm crying is that I don't know what went wrong with the law. But we knew that the nation would have come to this point. Because when you decide to fight or a bowl of rice, you must have throat to swallow the rice. But you fight for the bowl of rice, you got the first bowl, and you can't even finish it. Then you're looking for more. How big is your throat for all the food that you're fighting for to pass through your throat? When you see a man eating and begin to fart, it means that he's overstuffing his throat with the food, and the food cannot find passage to go down through the esophagus into the stomach and begin to be processed and crushed by the small intestine. The small intestine will take all the nutrients out, and the waste material, the small intestine will transfer it to the large intestine as a waste to be dispersed or dispensed through the backside. I come this morning to talk about the dream that I had with the Capitol building burning, and those who build the free land of liberty with justice for all. As I look around the Capitol building, Capitol Hill, I just saw a group of people crying that I could not recognize in my dream, sharing tears. On the other side, I saw 13 men just in line, just standing in line, bleeding. And on the other side, as I look, I saw the counties, the 16 counties of our nation. I saw it on fire. And I could see dead body bones all over, in the forest, in the swamp, everywhere. That bullet took them down. They're still right there. And the ants ate the rest of the flesh, and the bones were all over the place. The Capitol building was crying profusely. And I began to wonder, if a building is sharing tears, what happened to the people that's in the building? How did it happen? You know, I will conclude this morning, since I had this dream. And then when I look on the other side, I saw on the gate, over the gate that entered into that city, I saw Sodom and Gomorrah. As I stirred at that building and tried to enter into that city, before I could take the second step, I saw blaze of fires. I hardly saw anybody leaving the city. But when I looked, I saw 2 or 3 people walking, but I just saw them from the back walking. One heart was telling me it must be Abraham and his family when I turned to look in that dream. But when I turned back, the entire city was on fire. City with thousands of people. I only saw 3 persons. Then when I look on the other side, I saw a pillar of salt in the shape of a woman. And then when I looked, I only saw 3 persons. Other a city with millions of people. That was not all. When I decided to leave to see if I could bump into another city, then when I got into the city, on top of the gate, I saw Judea. Before I could take a step through that gate, I saw blaze of fire. Then on the other side, I saw people in line. I tried to call them and ask them, then they couldn't answer me. Everybody was just going and running in line. It took me to 1990 when I saw people in lines, in queue, that the rebels had put them in queue for security check. Then on the other side, I saw criminal check, deadly check, because people were being shot, bam, bam, bam. Children going, the parent be killed before them, bam, bam, bam. Then I said, God, what kind of dream is this? He said, the dream I'm showing you, my son, your nation that you love, and every morning you're on media and talking and informing, and every experience that I taught you as a child, up to where you grew up, everything that I taught you to get to know, I got you connected into so many things, places that you pass, and you start to wonder why accident that you went into, you got to wonder why you survived the accident, all of these things. Your child was on her way to find you in exile, and the bus had an accident. Everybody was out of that bus. But before that bus even started, I took the two babies, including your daughter, from out of that bus, so that you will know the story of my protection. You seen this dream of a burn building crying because, my son, those two cities that you attempt to go in your dream, Sodom and Gomorrah and Judea, those two cities grieve my heart so dearly. But one of them, only 3 persons survived it. The other one was thousands of people that stuck onto me, stuck onto my name, Yahweh, in the midst of all the sinfulness that were going on, the terrible things. They stuck to me. I could not feel them. I had to allow them to leave, because I know that the ruthless king, Nebuchadnezzar, was willing to comfort them. But I allowed Nebuchadnezzar to take them away because my blessing was still on them. My son, that's why you are in Canada. That's why your brothers and sisters are in America, Australia, everywhere, Canada, everywhere they are in America. Where I took them from out of there, they are there for a purpose. And out of the crowd that came back, but I gave them favor in exile. That favor that will later be able to help them rebuild the broken walls of Jerusalem. The Father's land was the only city that was rebuilt. Gomorrah was other context, spiritual context. Sodom, other spiritual context. Judea, half of it, 75% of it was other spiritual context. But there was the 25% stuck onto Yahweh. I could not deny them. And I sent them into exile to reproduce, learn, go to school, so that after when they return, I gave favor to Nehemiah, because I saw the heart of Nehemiah. You were crying in that dream when you saw Capitol building, crying because of your compassion and emotion for your nation that's burning down. Because when you burn down the house of God, when Sodom burned down, it was our God that burned it down myself. When Judah burned down, it was our God that burned it myself. And then I will tell you finally, my son, I burned down Capitol building because it was no longer worthy of the reason which I built it for. It was no longer worthy of my blessing because it was killing more people. It was starting to plant a seed of more Liberian dying, more than the one that happened the 15 years. So the only thing I did was to send fire down from heaven to burn it. But I hope if they decide to rebuild it, my son, wipe your tears. Go and tell them. If they decide to rebuild that place, the entire nation and the mansion that you've been asking them to cleanse. And the reason why they ignore you, my son, because they pretend to know God, but there's no piece of me in them. That's why I personally burned that building to confuse them. And when I decided to do something, I sent sign. He said, my son, you were washing a couple of weeks back when the electrical panel had problem. You saw a man in white in the photo. You thought it was an electrician. No, it was my angel. It was my angel. The security were all over the place. I put them to sleep so that my work that I've started will begin. And when they wake up, they will see flame. Because I burned down 2 cities. So it was apparent I would burn down a building that no longer was making laws to help my people that have suffered 14 years. Not certified. They moved into a hotel. Millions of dollars spent there. Some of them were slim. When they went in the hotel, before the burning of the building, they had gotten the sweating in their clothes. My son, tell them they have to bring the people of God. Maybe go to Israel and ask, since they're having trouble, if there's a way to bring people from the promised land to rebuild that building, consecrate the Capitol Hill, the mansion that's still sitting on blood. The amount of blood that was wasted in that mansion, my 2 brothers were eaten by lions in that mansion in 1990. All because somebody get pass left in the pocket when they announced that everybody should come home. And they ordered the gate pass, they murdered them brutally in the mansion, not too far from the Capitol building. So my son, I have started my work for that nation that was built by your forefathers who suffered. And at one point, I freed them to come back to the free land of liberty that should long be yours. But my word, I have been cursed after war. People have established bloody churches. I sent you to Liberia 2017. You thought you were going to do business. You thought you had $3 million instead online for business. No, I sent you there, my child, so that you will see after the war what has gone wrong. Why you think everything? Just imagine why you, with all the what happened to you. Can you imagine how did you get 67,500 United States dollar transferred to the business partner? You ever thought about how that money came about? It was impossible for you to even get $10,000 from Liberia. So that building that you saw crying, the Capitol building, were crying for many innocent souls that have been lost. That's why Satan used that group to ignore the law, because anytime a law is ignored, people die. 1990, 15 years, the law was canceled out of Liberia, and 250,000 people died, my son. But I'm telling you today, I brought that dream to you to tell you, my son, make the spiritual changes that you need for yourself. That started this morning in your room. And you didn't know that I was speaking. But the dream was for you to correct the things that bother you in your heart. Correct it. Because I got more job for you. Thank you for listening to this dream. The Capitol Hill, the Capitol building is in tears because I am angry with Liberia. I am angry with Liberia. Because when the wisdom of the leader of a country, when the wisdom gets eroded and poisoned by evil people around the leaders become confused. Because when you look around him, you see security. How can I secure myself? If I begin to deal with them, I will become more vulnerable. So the wise man will say, let it unfold by itself. Because if God sees my heart, I want to do the right thing, and other people say, God will deal with them. So this is my dream. This is the story of my dream. Share the issue of the dream that I had with the Capitol building, sharing bitter tears. And God took me through to let people know. Amen. God bless.